see it appear.
I'll let you know. I'm watching.
It's good to be back. Welcome, everybody, to episode 54 of the Xbox Era podcast. I'm joined, as usual, by Shpeshal Ed.
What's going on?
And a very special guest, we have Zedox, a.k.a. unpronounceable twiddle handle. You can do it, Zedox. Go!
The name is Chris Woefel. It's pronounced Woefel, or some people say Woefel.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
I was unsure.
Usually I get waffle. I've gotten that my entire life. So if you think you want to say that, I've heard it all. But yeah.
I just prefer woeful.
Woeful.
Yes.
There must be quite a few puns coming away.
Yeah, but it's actually supposed to be pronounced Woefel because it's actually German because my grandfather was Austrian. So
the fun begins. Well,
yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you. We were just remarking before we went live that the sexiness quotient of the podcast has just skyrocketed at this point.
Sexy. So sexy.
I'm feeling a little bit underdressed right now.
You know, I had to do it.
I love this so much. It's good to be back. I wasn't here last week, which made me sad. And it made me sad particularly because we had the always lovely and chatty Adam Icegreen on from the Age of Empires studio World's Edge. And I was
good.
I was bummed. I mean, you did a great job considering I wasn't here.
It was very last second.
It was very last second, and I appreciate the kindness.
I just remember vaguely waking up like a bit tired, and I always just sort of vary because I've got my screen brightness turned right down overnight.
Wise.
And yeah, So I sort of looked and saw some messages from you, and I'm like, oh, doesn't he fucking have his world clock on where he knows what time it is here?
He knew.
And then I'm like trying to look closer, and I'm like, oh
no.
I was like, oh. So I'm like getting up. I'm like, oh, I've got to make sure everything's set to go and ready. And
I'm so sorry, dude.
And OBS and Skype, they were giving me so much trouble.
I heard.
So much trouble. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
to
it
be
worked
fair,
out in the end.
first time in 54 episodes, we only get one, right? Next time it better be like, what's the phrase from Shawshank Redemption? You better be dead or dying in there. I shit you not. Movie. You have never seen the Shawshank Redemption?
Nope.
Okay, we're off to a bad start on today's podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Never seen it.
I'll tell you what, before we get into what we've been playing, which is what we normally always start the podcast with, right? What have we been watching? I just finished watching the Mortal Kombat movie.
So good.
So did I. So bad.
Yeah, really? So bad it's good. So bad it's good, right?
I thought it was good. I liked it. It's a fun movie. I like it.
It was hella cheesy.
I liked it.
The line when he finally get over here.
Josh Lucas was like, I like Josh Lucas in House of Lies and in Anchorman 2. I like that he was an Aussie that got to just be an Aussie. Like, hearing him call everyone a fucking idiot, I'm like, oh my God, I call everyone a fucking idiot. I'm like, that is the best.
Yeah, so he was definitely by far the best character in the movie.
Yeah.
So like, I just finished it like an hour ago before we got on the podcast.
It's literally the same.
So good.
So
good.
I
loved it. I'm like, that's how I talk. That is how I talk. So good.
But yeah, aside from that, I'll tell you what else as well. Look, we're on the subject of movies. It's a live show. We've got the chat here with us. I can see a few people already chit-chatting away. Has anyone seen Nobody?
Yes, so good.
Wow.
So good. Top film.
Yeah.
Top film.
Like, wow. That came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah. My brother told me, he's like, watch Nobody. I hadn't heard of it. I actually hadn't heard of it. And he goes, don't you remember that trailer with Better Call Saul? I'm like, oh, yeah, I kind of do remember that trailer. He's like, watch the movie. And I was like, this is such a good movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of John Wick-ish.
It's very John
Wick, but with a bit of a difference. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it really tickled me in all of the right ways. So thoroughly recommend it if you're bored and looking for something to watch. If you can find somewhere that's you can get Nobody and watch that, because
The Marksman is pretty good. It's not bad.
It's on the list, but I saw Liam Neeson. I saw him not willing to run anywhere. I was like, oh God, please.
Liam Neeson again.
Yeah, I just finished watching Captain America and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I finished that yesterday as well, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Don't you mean, wait.
Yeah. Oh, just spoiler alert.
Oh, no.
It's not really a spoiler. Everybody knows.
Because I was wondering, I haven't seen the latest episode, but I watched the one before it. And I'm like, so he is Captain America now?
If he chooses to be.
Yeah, because at the end of the last episode, they kind of alluded to the fact that, okay, now he is Captain America.
He was doing all the training and stuff, right?
Just watch it. It's really good.
Yeah, it
touched me.
It was good.
Especially as a black man, it kind of touched me.
Well, I tell you what, and I'm definitely not really able to speak of such matters, but I thought that it was handled rather well in the fact that, if you think about it, what black man would want to be, really, Captain America, a symbol of, blue eyes, blonde hair, and then they had the big speech, and then it was just really, really well done. I thought it was very cool.
Now that's spoilers.
At the end of Endgame, I was under the impression that that's what was happening. He gave him the shield. So I'm like, oh, cool. So this is how, because I don't, you guys are, I believe you two are old enough. You should be old enough.
This is a tangent.
Quite my age, but you're close enough. So do you remember there had been rumors years ago, before the MCU was even a thing, there had been rumors forever ago that Marvel wanted Will Smith to be Captain America. This was forever ago. I'm talking like when I was in primary school, I had heard that they were going to make Doom a movie. Now, they ended up doing it, but back then they were going to get Arnold Schwarzenegger to do Doom.
Yeah.
Now, they ended up
I
with
would
The
have
Rock.
loved that movie with Arnold.
Yeah. But there were rumors years ago that they were going to get Captain America, Will Smith, to be Captain America.
Yeah,
and
that would make sense during that time period because he was like on
huge.
the rise.
And he was huge. But then, of course, you had the usual internet racism that resulted out of that, and whatever.
He did that because if you followed the comics, Sam Wilson becomes Captain America.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I like the way they ended up doing it, where he handed over. But that's why I was a bit disappointed with Falcon and how he's himself rather than being Captain America. But
you know what? Like we're on this tangent now. So look, audience, dearest audience who came here to talk about Xbox and video games, just hold on. But do you remember the big uproar? I think there was a Captain America comic like a few years back, or it was ages back. I don't read comics, sorry, I don't really care that much. But there was this whole big hoo-ha about Captain America actually being a Hydra agent, and they kind of alluded to it in Endgame where he gets in the lift and he just goes, "Hail Hydra" to all the bad guys. Hydra. But then when they had this other Captain America guy come in that looked a bit like the guy from Up when he wore the mask, he was kind of obviously going bad, right? And I thought they were going to give us an evil Captain America kind of moment. I don't know.
They did.
They did give us, but he was going to go full Hydra. But then his uniform does kind of look Hydra-ish at the end. But I don't know. Anyway, right.
Yeah.
Enough Marvel. I'm sorry, it happened. We were talking movies and TV.
We might have to do a separate podcast, I think.
It's a question of time. I could talk about film a lot. I do watch movies.
David M, hashtag movies and TV. Someone that's in the Discord, clearly.
So good.
Yeah, it's definitely a Zuna off topic.
Someone in the Discord.
So, video games, they're pretty cool. I hear we play them a lot. Have you guys been playing anything new this week? Or 2 weeks, since I haven't spoken to you in a while?
Yeah, went back to Control to keep chipping away at that. I keep playing Rocket League. I bought, I think I already said, I bought Aloy in Fortnite, so I played a bit of that. I think that's about it. Went back to Days Gone again. God, that game is so long. It's such a long game.
It's just $70 right there.
Oh my God, it's so
you're
long.
getting your money's worth.
Yeah, you can collect those things.
Yeah,
I love short games. I love short games.
I've been playing on xCloud, and obviously we can talk about that, of course. So I've been playing some Halo 5, some Halo MCC. I did play MLB The Show. That was my first time actually playing MLB The Show. I didn't get that far into it, just kind of did like some training, and then played a little bit against the Dodgers as the Yankees because I'm a Yankee. But it was pretty fun. I would probably go back to it and play. But playing in xCloud, it was fine playing it. The only issue I had was loading because there are not Series S, but 1S.
1S.
And so like that loading was ridiculous. I was like, I'm so blessed to have a Series X right now.
I have to admit, the xCloud stuff, as cool as it is, the fact it is on 1S hardware is so painful when you try it out. I got invited to the Xbox I want to say XboxEra.com there, xbox.com/play beta, and like it's cool, it works. But it's on a 1S, and I'm sorry, Microsoft, you've spoiled me with your super fast SSDs, and I can't go back. It's really painful. So I try to pick games that don't need to load anymore once they're there. It's too much otherwise. But did you guys see? I think Phil Spencer responded to someone on Twitter this week and said, but they're actually in internal testing at the moment with the Series X blades, which is
oh good.
It's been some time. They've been internally testing that for a little bit of time now, actually.
That's cool. It's good. Hopefully that comes
Warner,
soon.
you need to play something other than Rocket League. No.
Did you not?
Now,
He's played like what 60 days worth.
well,
of
yeah,
time?
like now that they brought back the time played, I was like, okay, I quickly got to check how long I've been playing Rocket League for. So I jumped into the app. 60 days I've been playing Rocket League, and that's just on Xbox. I got the platinum on PlayStation 4, so there's probably God knows how long there. I've played on Switch, I've played on PC, so I've probably got, I'm going to say, roughly 2,000 hours on Rocket League.
Yeah, and a shout out
love that
to Bruno Costa. Oh, I'm
Yes.
kind of cutting into tangents.
There's
tangents inside tangents right now.
You've gone on tangent already.
I'll come back to Bruno in a moment. But before we move on to other topics, so I feel like I've been on a good little run of games. I've finished Control. I played what's the name of it? Last Words, Lost in the Page. I can't remember the full name. I think Harmonica's writing the review. It's the game by Rhianna Pratchett that Phil Spencer called out on Twitter. He said, if you haven't played this. And I did play it. And man, if you've ever lost someone in your life, be it a grandparent or a loved one, yeah.
Maybe I don't need to play this game.
Yeah, it's going to punch you. It's going to get you in the feels. It's going to grab them and give you some moments there. But I haven't fully finished it yet, so I don't want to say too much. But yeah, it's just like what's coming next. I think one of the team is playing through something that's apparently secret that we're not allowed to say. I'm not allowed to say what it is, but I can tell you secretly that it's coming very soon. Very soon. But I can't say any more than that because then I'll be breaking the law. But yeah, that's about it for me. Nothing too exciting. I think I'm waiting for the next interesting indie game for me to play through.
Yeah, I think I want to play this. I forgot the name of it. There's a game where it's like you are on a bike with a friend, and I think you're picking up stuff. Like you have to like go around some levels, obviously, with a friend and like pick up stuff on your bike. And so I think that would be maybe one of the games that I try to play with somebody, or whatever. Okay.
Sounds like a possible Paperboy sequel. Remember Paperboy?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Vibes that I was getting. I was like, oh my gosh, bring back Paperboy. Please bring it back. That's really showing our age right there.
Paperboy.
It's a lot of grey. There's a lot of grey. I had some family round today for the first time in forever because it's my son's 7th birthday. I have never seen so much Minecraft paraphernalia in my entire life. Pajamas, t-shirts, Lego sets,
bed sheets.
He got the yellow Switch Lite, and right now
Switch Lite.
He's 7, dude. Come on, right? But
so my son's 5 and he's got a normal Switch.
Hey,
come on.
We bought it. We're poor, we're not rich people. Not like you Australians with your super expensive dollar. But he wanted it because he's been wanting to play Animal Crossing with his mum, and his mum wanted him to have a Switch because she wanted someone else's island so that she could offload all the stuff she's got onto him and redo hers. So they're actually up right now. I have a feeling there's not going to be any room in my bed for me tonight. They'll just be passed out, surrounded by Cheeto dust and Animal Crossing cases. So yeah, it's good for them. I hope they have fun. Cool. So, in news this week, there's been some interesting things going on.
Very.
It feels like, I don't know about you guys, but there's never a quiet week now.
Yeah, not much.
There's always kind of
always
something going on. That's
and there's always a tease to something else too. So by the end of the week, you have a tease for, hey, something's coming next week. Either if it's from a insider or from an official source.
They're all bullshit anyway.
Yeah. No, they're just good guesses. That's the latest turn of phrase. That's your latest description.
We're gonna get to some guesses, all right.
Oh yes. But hey,
this is just gonna be the gloating hour.
Well, I'm looking forward to a rant from you in a little while, so we'll get to that. But I think the most interesting piece of news I saw doing the rounds early this week was the supposed Capcom contract leak that rustled some jimmies out there.
Boy, did it.
Yeah. What's your take on this? Do you read that whole because I read the words technical parity, and I don't read it as, it has to maintain the same resolution and all of that stuff that some people are probably taking it to that degree. I read it as it has to play in the same way on all platforms. Like not literally, but I know that there's different interpretations.
Okay, look,
but
let me get it out because I have a copy of it.
Yeah.
So it's funny. The morning that all went down, again, everything happens while I sleep. This is the problem with the Australian time zone. So I usually wake up to a lot of pings and DMs and all sorts of stuff. So I had like DMs from all sorts of people, and I'm like, I saw one DM with a link to a file. I'm like, am I about to be virused? Like, what the hell's going on here? And they're like, don't share this with anyone. So I click on it, and it's the Capcom contract. Then I see another DM. Don't share this with anyone. I click on it, it's the Capcom contract.
Yeah.
I see a third DM. Have you seen this? It's a copy of the Capcom contract. Oh my god!
Don't share with anyone though, right?
So don't share it with anyone. But 3 of you had it, and you've all sent it to me.
Yeah.
So I've read through this. So where is it? Let me double click this PDF. I've got the PDF in front of me. What does it say about the parody, the technical parody?
Yeah, you have to. There's a certain wording in there.
Yeah. Feature content and technical parody. During the term and for 7 years thereafter, publisher will ensure each version of the game available on PS platforms maintains content, feature, and technical parity. Now, here's the key words in brackets. Subject to material platform limitations, with any equivalent version of the game or DLC released on any other competitive platform or PC mobile platform.
Yeah.
Publisher will not release the game or any DLC on any competitive platform or PC mobile platform on an exclusive basis, or 2, because the other one was a 1, offer any additional content or any additional features or benefits to end users of the game on any competitive platform or PC mobile platform on an exclusive basis. So the subject to material platform limitations is what makes me think that, okay, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, and maybe Zooj can tell us. But I'm assuming that means if the Series X can have a higher res or whatever, if the PS5 can't keep up, well then, okay, fine, whatever. I think, but again, I don't know. Like, I still don't know if this thing is real. Like,
yeah,
I sent this on to someone. I sent this on to someone to try and verify it. So far, everyone that has looked at this thing, like I think Richard Hogue.
Yeah.
Hogue.
He's a good guy, Richard.
Yeah. He, I think, has had a look at it, and he believes it might be real.
Yeah. A lot of the language that was used is something that is what a lawyer would put forth.
Yes,
and a lot of
here's
things that
my
happen.
thing.
But
as a former graphic designer, some stuff here looks odd. Like, there is some stuff here that looks to me like someone's edited something. Like, you see the text of the contract looks really sharp and clean, but then each of the headings looks weird and blurry, like it's been edited. And that was like the first thing I noticed.
I work in a business with a lot of contracts, and sometimes they can look all over the place because there's a lot of redlining that goes on.
I don't know.
I wouldn't read too much.
Look at printers, and then you can look at somebody trying to photocopy it, and it's being passed around as a PDF. So it can look.
And it could be the fact that maybe someone had a template, so the headings are the same, but then the text changes. I don't know. The only other thing that made me think, is this real, is purely the amount. How can Sony get all of that for just $5 million? Like, that to me seems odd, because so allegedly, I can't remember if it's been confirmed or anything, but allegedly Microsoft paid $17 million to get Monster Hunter World onto Game Pass, and that was like a year later, right? Yeah. $17 million. Yet Sony can get pretty much everything barring exclusivity for $5. So in my head, I'm like, hold on. So if I came up to you right now, because let's assume, for argument's sake, that Microsoft probably wanted Resident Evil 8 on Game Pass. Let's just assume. Right. If I'm coming up to you, Chris, and I say, here, Chris, take this $5 so that John can't give you 100.
Yeah.
Why would you take that deal?
I
don't understand maybe because I'm like poor and I can't make it down the street or something like that.
Risk versus
I'm just kidding.
Commitment.
I don't know.
It
just seems weird.
Yeah.
You know,
or maybe I mean, there's a lot of things that can possibly happen. Like, let's say Microsoft or Capcom came to Microsoft and said, "Hey, maybe we want to do a Game Pass deal with Resident Evil 8," even though it's kind of murky in that, but just because like they just started doing the first on launch day things, and then Microsoft said no because we know that it's going to cost a lot of money. And so if that is a possibility, and that let's say that happened, then they can go to PlayStation and say, hey, well, PlayStation's like, oh, I'll give you $5 million. But then Capcom's just looking at, well, we're not getting anything from Microsoft, so at least let us get something. So that is a possibility. Not saying it'll happen, but just looking at all possibilities of how they can come to that amount. But I'm in agreement with you where like 16, 17 million for an older game. It wasn't even like it was at launch. And you're giving everything up for 5 million?
It just
for
seems
marketing?
too cheap.
it's a bit weird.
It just seems too cheap. Like that's what makes me think, is it real or is it? I don't know 100%, and I have no way of verifying it. So
hot scoop. Jez Corden.
I know. I just saw
from Windows Central just pinged you on Twitter and said,
I know.
23 million record of figures.
Got it from a different stat.
Yeah. So just
then he said
for the audience,
so 22 million might be more accurate.
Yeah, we're talking about Game Pass subscribers. Obviously, Jez. So is this more that you're adding to the pile of I was right? I don't know if this is this going on.
Well, I don't know. Nothing is confirmed yet.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I
so okay, so right.
Deep breath.
I had been told about the Game Pass subscribers numbers a little while ago and said nothing. I got told don't say anything. So I didn't. And then I saw Jez's article, and in Jez's article he said last he heard the Game Pass subscriber number was somewhere over 20 million.
Yeah.
So I'd linked that article to my guy, and I said, oh, look, Jez has kind of alluded to a number over 20 million. Can I say anything? And he goes, yeah, say just over 22 million. So that's when I quoted his article and said, yes, Jez is right. It's over 20 million. It's just over 22. Jez went back over the top like a bastard and said it's actually 23 million as of April 20. And that then created articles. But of course, we won't know until Microsoft
is their earnings
like in a week or something. They're going to have their earnings.
The 27th, I believe. So I think it's Tuesday. Next Tuesday.
But here's the thing, though. Those numbers the numbers, if Microsoft gives any numbers, I think they're only going to count to March 31. So anything they did in April, and April is MLB, April was Outriders. So who knows what kind of boost that got.
Yeah.
I just went with what I was told, which is just over 22 mil. So that's a good number. It's a solid number. I expect it to increase, but we'll get into future predictions a little bit later on. So look, before I let you go on your rant, all right, because I'm looking at my list here, and I know we kind of skipped ahead because of that tweet. So I wasn't going to address this on last week's show with Adam on. No, of course not. I understand, but let's tackle it. Let's get it out of the way. But before we do, I'm just gonna drop in with a lighter tone because I just wanted to mention a couple of things. If people have been possibly paying attention to XboxEra.com, you may have noticed that our staff for the site grew by 2 for last week, I think, with the addition. 2 or 3? 2. Oh, okay. I thought it was 3. I voted no for both of them. I didn't want either of them. Well, this is ruining my lighter tone. I was outvoted.
But we've recently added Blast the Bass, who's been around with us since day one, right? Supporting the podcast, supporting the team. He expressed an interest. He wanted to do more, and we had a chat. It was a no-brainer. I think he's working on his first review at the moment of a very popular Sony PlayStation game that's recently no longer exclusive. But we've also added Bruno Costa, who, if anyone has been on the forum since day one, he was like, "Oh, look at these features on this new forum," and then he just showed us how to use them, which was humbling because we were like, "Oh, what, we could do that? Oh, that's cool." And he has just been running with it. So, and I think it's fair to say that these two have given all of our team a little bit of a kick in the arse, because they're kind of showing us up with all of their passion and excitement to do
That's
stuff.
Why I voted no.
Yeah, you didn't want to look bad. So huge welcome to them. If you see them on the site, you'll probably see that their tag now has site staff on it. And big thank you to them for joining this party. Let's see where it goes. Now we've got the lighter, fun stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Nick, a few weeks ago, you and I and Figments were chatting. We were chatting about Sony and their Game Pass competitor, their answer to Game Pass.
Okay.
And I think you flippantly used a phrase that's rustled some jimmies to the extent that people have had to go out and get ironing boards to get the creases out of them. And what was the phrase you used? Let's get the context in here.
The phrase. Oh, hold on. So here's the funny thing. So our last live episode, right? We had a rumor mill, and I'm staggered that rumor mill wasn't what created the news, because guess what? It was right. Do we not have now a PlayStation Video Pass or whatever it is that has movies? It's funny, after it came out, because again, it happened while I was sleeping. The source that told me about the PlayStation Entertainment Pass linked me to it and said, haha, told you so. I'm like, what the hell are you laughing at me for? You told me. But anyway, the stuff that caused the stir from that episode was stuff that I had said in passing. Look, for anyone watching, and for the people hate watching, because I know there has to be one guy hate watching, because I've seen him mention me twice on Resetera as the clown who said Sony only makes 1 or 2 games. I've seen him say that.
That's
twice
the phrase
now.
I was referring to, by the way.
Mate, I'm a Greek Australian. Like, I talk in exaggerations. I like to add salsa to the things I say. Like, for example, anyone who knows me in the Discord will know I exaggerate everything, right? So if I want to complain that a game has too many side quests, rather than just be a normal person and say, this game has too many side quests, I will say, why the fuck does this game have 5,073 side quests? Don't take the 5,073 seriously. I don't mean that number literally. It's just the way I talk. And it's very hard for me to change 40 years of the way I talk. So when I said Sony only makes 1 or 2 games a year, don't get so hung up on it, yeah? The point is that I believe Sony can't support a Game Pass competitor right now. That's the point. Don't miss the overarching point. Don't get hung up on 1 or 2 games. Oh, Sony actually publishes many games. All right, man. In my head, I was thinking their internal first-party studios and how many they make. In the end, the ultimate point is I don't believe they can support a Game Pass competitor right now. That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, they would have a lot of more money.
Oh my god, and more studios, more manpower. Like Sony's focus right now is third-person AAA blockbuster, slow walk and talk, blah 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 blah. PS3 era Sony, I believe, could have supported Game Pass. PS3 era Sony.
I still don't.
I think
you need a lot more debt.
See, I think they could have back then.
You need a lot more debt.
The reason people got their knickers in a proverbial twist is because the phrase Sony only makes 1 or 2 games a year, they're like, they publish tons of games. Okay.
Well, you know how lists go. List wars. That's what it is.
So let's take it down to brass tacks. We were discussing before that point came up, Microsoft's 23 first-party studios versus Sony's what? 8?
Is it 15?
I don't know.
Technically,
I don't know what it
No,
is.
well, it's going down anyway. So
yeah, in terms of actual active
Japan
studios that are making dedicated games, I don't think it's 15 because they've got a lot of like tech teams and support teams. I think I could be wrong. God, please don't take my words so literally. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a web crawler. I'm not omniscient. Is omniscient the right word?
Yes. Yeah.
Or I'm all knowing, all seeing. Like,
omniscient. Yeah.
just seriously calm the fuck down. Like, just relax a
Yeah.
little bit. The other thing, and again, I can't believe what this became. So we were talking about Kojima's game, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, oh, fucking hell. So in my DM, I was told that Sony knocked back Kojima's game. I added the Jim for Flourish, like, because Jim is a personification of Sony. I don't know if Jim Ryan specifically went to Kojima's house and said, dude, I don't want your game. Like, and by the way, my impression wasn't Jim Ryan. My impression wasn't Jim Ryan, you fucking imbeciles. It was Eddie Murphy in Raw. And, or Delirious. Either Raw or Delirious. Like, my impression was Eddie Murphy, not Jim Ryan, for fuck's sake. Like, just calm the fuck down. Like, all of a sudden, I saw on Reddit, Jim Ryan says no to Kojima. I'm like, oh my God. Would Jim Ryan even be the one that makes that call? Wouldn't it be like the third party?
He could possibly be the person. It all depends on what the relationship between Kojima and what he wants to, how he feels about new PlayStation. Because Jim Ryan is, even though he's been at Sony for a long period of time, he is a new head. And so as, you know, a big time developer, Kojima, he may want to hear it from the top himself. You know, we know that he's talking to Phil. Why would he not want to talk to the head of PlayStation?
Maybe.
Or talk to one of Jim's little cronies? Like,
yeah.
The
point I was making was
people look at a respect thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I only said Jim as like a personification of Sony. Like, it wasn't. Yeah. I don't know that it was Jim specifically. If I was to show everyone the DM, which I'm not going to do because the name's not blurred out, but the DM just says Sony said, like, it was Sony that knocked back the game. Sony, the company. But who specifically? Who the hell knows? I just said Jim because I always say Phil for Xbox too.
Yeah.
Google. I don't even know who runs games for Google. Is it Phil Harrison? Does he actually run it all?
I think he's the senior VP, else? Yeah.
He's just the senior VP of the game division.
So who is the Jim Ryan? Who is the Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer for Google?
It would be Phil Harrison.
It would be Phil? Oh, okay. So at the time I didn't know. So I said Google because I wasn't sure who the person was. It's just, please just understand the way I talk. But you know what? I'm going to try and learn now because now that I see how seriously people take shit, I'm going to try and...
Screw that. If people can't be bothered
They're not a corporation.
God,
to take context and all of that fun stuff.
It's just... God, I couldn't believe what that became. I thought the PlayStation Pass was going to be the story because it basically ended up happening. But no, it was the Jim Ryan crap and it was the 1 or 2 games crap. Like, oh my God.
So, before we get into other news, are you okay? Is there anything else you want to get off your chest while we're here? Like, do you want to get... I'll give you a moment. I'll give you... The stage is yours.
We're giving it to Nick. We're giving it to me.
Look, maybe I have to keep repeating this stuff because maybe we have new viewers, maybe we have new hate watchers. I don't know. I've said this before. I myself am not an insider. I'm just a fucking pleb. Like, I'm nothing, right? I'm nobody. But for whatever reason, how this all started, people started watching this podcast, literally reached out to me and quite naively said, "You seem like a nice person," right? Now, how I fooled them into thinking this, I don't know. But they were like, "You seem nice. You seem trustworthy. Do you want some info?" Okay. Like, I'm like, Klob back in the day would find his own stuff.
Yep.
That Garfield Hoxod cat finds his own stuff. I don't. I'm not a web crawler. Like, so I used to be in PlayStation Era, the Discord. There is someone in that Discord who is an insider that I don't know if they know that this person is an insider. Because a couple of times I leaked stuff in PlayStation Era this person then DM'd me and said, this stuff's old. I was like, oh, so you know stuff? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, how come you don't tease, leak? He's like, I'm not interested.
Fair.
So, and I was disappointed to see this person have a dig at me on XboxEra on the forum. I was a little bit disappointed that this person had a go at me. But in the end, I don't get my info. It comes to me. And I just say what they tell me. If it's wrong, it's wrong. They were wrong. They misheard something or whatever it is. If they're right, then they were right.
Yep.
But I don't, like, I've seen people say you're a clout chaser. Well, yeah, there is a little bit of clout involved. Like, why the hell else would
I
do it?
appreciate your honesty in this.
It's very honest. It's like, I need watchers. I need viewers.
Anyone who has watched this podcast, anyone who's in the Discord, yeah, I'm a little bit of an arrogant, narcissistic, shallow person. Like, there's an element of that obviously to it. Like, there has to be. Otherwise, why else would you do it?
Just FYI, everybody, he's been like this for years.
Yeah.
Like, of course, there is an element of clout chasing to it. Like, duh.
Hey, there it is.
But, like, yeah, no, I saw my throat must sound bad. This is for Nick's throat medicine for the questions. They do go on. Oh, yeah, I've already had a look at Karis's question. My God, it's like the longest one ever. Like, there's obviously an element of clout chasing to it. Otherwise, why else would someone do that sort of stuff? Like, a lot of these people, I've asked them, why don't you just leak this stuff yourself? And they say to me, because I don't want the bad side of it.
Yeah.
So
understandable.
I did this under the understanding that, yeah, I was going to cop some shit. And I'm still learning to try and not take the bad shit on board. But it's tough sometimes. But in terms of he's a clout chaser. Like, if I was going to make stuff up, now, okay, I'm going to say something here that I hope doesn't get me in trouble. So I have, like Robert De Niro, I have a circle of trust, like Meet the Fockers.
Yeah, I love that film.
And this circle of trust has a few people in it where I share stuff that I get told, sort of to keep receipts, sort of to, yeah, anyway. So, for example, when I was told the Killer Instinct's not dead, back in, God, it was ages ago, the It's Not Dead game, the only person I told about that game was Chris. I told Chris back when I was first told about Killer Instinct. Yeah. I told Chris about Killer Instinct, and no one was told since. So I know that Chris.
Nobody known that I knew about it.
He's earned his place. He's earned his place in the circle of trust.
So the reason I told Chris was I thought I could trust him because we had other dealings, and also because I knew he would be excited about Killer Instinct because he loves Killer Instinct as much as I love Killer Instinct. So I have a circle of trust that I tell people certain things, not everything, but certain things, sort of to keep receipts for stuff. But if I was going to make stuff up for clout, so I'm a co-host on an Xbox podcast, why in fuck's name would I bother making up stuff about Sony or Nintendo or whatever? Like, wouldn't I be trying to appeal to my base by making up Xbox rumors that would get us more attention? So
you would want to be a PlayStation insider?
Yeah, like
jokes, people. It's jokes.
Everyone is expecting Microsoft to buy Sega, for example. Almost everyone is expecting it
because they should.
If I was going to make stuff up for attention, especially now that I have a little bit of a reputation. If I was going to make stuff up for attention, wouldn't I come out now and be like, Microsoft's buying Sega? Microsoft's buying Sega. It's happening.
Okay, sorry. Anyone for WCCF Tech that's listening right now, that's an example and not a statement of fact. Thank you.
I'm just saying, like, if I was going to make stuff up, I'd be making up far more interesting stuff. And, like, I don't know, it just seems weird. Like, one of the first things I got told about was Wonderful 101 getting a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it was right. Like, why would I make something so inane and random up. Like
when I do the timestamps for this, am I allowed to label it as Nick was right, and then it can just be a catch-all?
Look, all right. So we
haven't gotten to the Nick is right.
I'm going to say something again at the risk of John not liking me for this.
Uh-oh.
And there's a little bit of how the sausage is made. When we first started this, John and I used to have arguments about stuff because he used to say to me, "Dude, where the fuck are the Xbox rumors?" Because I was doing PlayStation stuff, Nintendo stuff, third-party stuff. He's like, "Man, what the fuck is going on with your sources? Where the fuck is the Xbox
need some
stuff?"
Phil juice. Wait.
Like we used to have arguments at the start because I wasn't doing enough Xbox rumors. Like I wasn't getting enough Xbox rumors. Like I only put out there what I am told. If it's Xbox, it's Xbox. If it's Sony, it's Sony. If it's PlayStation, if it's Nintendo, it's Nintendo. Like these people, I need to make it clear to the people watching. These people come to me with stuff. I don't make up a single thing. I just go on what I'm told. Like I don't know how much clearer I can make that. As to the other stuff, I exaggerate. It's the way I talk. It's just, I say things like 110%, even though there's no such thing as 110%. It's just the way I talk. Don't take it so fucking seriously, for God's sake.
There you go. So,
God, isn't the clown that said Sony only makes 1 or 2 games? Yeah, I am that fucking clown, dude. Like, fucking, don't watch. Don't watch.
No, it's too late. He can't.
Oh.
He can't help himself. So, after that profanity-laden rant...
Did we read out Terrace's other one?
This is for Zedox to get bigger mug.
Yeah.
I think we laughed appropriately.
Yeah, I have to tell everybody this is not water, I should say, but it is refreshing.
Spiked coffee.
So, a couple of
Mm.
things on a lighter heart before we dive into some more news, just to bring the mood of the room back up. So I got a really, really heartwarming message, and I believe I'm doing this right, and this person will probably correct me if I'm doing it wrong, but it's just in reference to our community, because I got a message to say, basically, it was more or less a, hey, thank you for this community kind of thing, and we were chatting, and they pointed out a couple of posts from other members in the community who shall go unnamed, but they lifted this person up and did some cool things. And we've seen some examples of this before on our forums with someone, I think it's Jamie ODST, who made a thread. And this person was so touched by how this community made her feel that she made a charity donation in their name. And I believe, and I'm going to check because I want to make sure I'm doing this right, I'm going to check my emails to make sure that I read out, because I think I can say the name, that they got the big thank you. So where is it in my emails? I get too many emails. This is crazy. I should have done this beforehand and had it queued up, but there you go.
Maybe you should have.
I should have.
Yeah.
I should have. Where is it?
He was paying attention to your rant too much, Nick. That's all.
Yeah, yes, I was enthralled. So a big thumbs up to Torn Raptor for making other people feel really bloody good. Now, hoping I did that right. Game Pass at 23 million.
Well, we kind of talked about that.
We talked about it. Do you guys?
Jez has apologized, saying.
Well, let's go with 22 million.
You saw. Well, I got told it was just over 22 as of April. And that's why I'm like, people are like, oh, we'll see when the official numbers come out. Well, we might not, because they stop in March.
Yeah.
So I was told back a little while back that as of April, it's 22 million or just over 22 million. So I don't know if Microsoft's going to just give an up-to-date number.
Yeah, they're most likely the numbers that they give is usually for that period. It's never for exactly that day. They obviously that they can say that, but it's usually is earnings report for that quarter. So everything that they talk about is specifically for that quarter, not to say anything that's past that quarter, because those are numbers that they would want to roll into the next quarter. So if they had like a big jump in April, you don't want to actually say that big jump in April. You don't want to say that big jump in April for the quarter of January through March, because you want to use that for the end of the next quarter, which I believe is May. I mean, no, it's June. June is like the next time they would end the quarter, and so they would use those numbers inside of that Q. I think that's their end of their fiscal quarter. I think that's Q4. And so that's when they would want to use those numbers, and because they have to not break the law and actually not lie, so they have to say what is right there. Because some people think that like, oh no, they're gonna put all these they're just grabbing these numbers from here, or not the active numbers or something like that. And it's like, no, they have to literally say the truth or they go to jail. So they're a public company, so they have to say everything correctly to their shareholders as best they can, even though that there are ways to wiggle around that. So certain things like Azure, like run rate, is not really exactly how much money they made right then, but it's like how much they will make based off of the rate that they're going right now for the entire year.
Yeah.
So when did they report? When did they report on 18?
They reported 18 in January. So January was the first time.
The very start of January, yeah?
Yes. Very start of January. Well, it was January 20 something.
So that would have been the end of December with the cutoff for those numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
look.
In our fiscal quarter 2. So every time that they do that, so it's the end of December, and then this one we would get January through March. But also saying that the last time when they first started reporting numbers, it was 10 million. Then the next time that they announced it was 5 million, and then the next time after that it was 8 million. So if they're at 22 or 23, then you can see that kind of like their baseline at this point when they first started reporting, that is around 3 to 5 million. So around 3.5 million per quarter that they're kind of doing. Well, I don't think it's per quarter, because I think the second time it was like 2 quarters, but their growth rate is going much faster.
I'd say safe to say 18 to 22 doesn't seem outrageous.
Yeah.
Given but that's the thing. If it stops at March, then maybe the number they announce won't be 22, because I'd wager the Outriders in MLB would have given a decent boost.
Yeah,
so
they've got to have made a massive sort of push almost into the mainstream, right? Because I don't think Game Pass is fully mainstream yet. It's still very much in our sphere, of your average hardcore gamer, whatever you want to call yourselves.
And you also want to kind of look at the fact that they also have to keep subscribers.
Yep.
So everybody's looking at the growth of subscribers. You also want to make sure that that number is, you always want it to be growing, but you also want it to not decline at all.
Yeah, you want to retain.
Yeah, you want to retain as much as possible. So even if they're not growing as fast, it's just as important to keep that number so that they can make sure that by the year they're keeping that revenue is still being produced, and so that they can still invest so they can grow those numbers. Yep. But usually, just like how Netflix and Spotify and Apple Music and Disney and all them, they grow. It's sporadic throughout the year, but it's usually the curve is usually going in a positive direction.
And now here's a super great opportunity for me to plug the excellent Netflix of Games article that One Bad Mother released via XboxEra earlier this week. If you really want to get a kind of peek behind the scenes and talk data and analytics, it's worth a read, because he did a phenomenal amount of data scraping, collected genre types, ESRB ratings, growth rate, etc., and dug a little bit into how Netflix's sort of early years were and how slow growth was until they realised, we've got to have original content that's commercially successful and critically well rated in order to grow. And then you suddenly see the spike. And what's super interesting about that is it dispels a lot of myths about Game Pass. When you talk about, Game Pass is just going to be full of multiplayer games full of microtransactions. Well, it's not the case. It's like 2/3 of the games on Game Pass are single player completely.
Did you check our DMs in the Twitter account?
I did. We fixed it this morning.
Okay. Because
he's got an eagle eye.
the notifications come from both accounts for me, mine and the Xbox Era one, and I thought the DM was in mine. And I said to this person, sorry, man, I'm not the right person to reach out to, thinking he was DMing me, not realizing he was DMing the XboxEra account. So I did apologize to that person in the DM, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were DMing me, so yeah.
Yeah, and just to give some context, so there was an eagle-eyed viewer that realised we had copy-pasted one percentage on a graph, and while we can't fix it in the video version, we were able to fix it on the website to accurately reflect what it should have been, and we put a little notification on the video. But seriously, if you haven't watched the video, go watch it. It's 18 minutes. Grab some snacks. It's really informative. If you have watched the video, please do leave a comment and click a thumbs up, because it does, push the old algorithm out. I am surprised, I have to admit, and I guess it's just resets anti-XboxEra sentiment, perhaps, but I thought we'd see an OT on that, because it dispels a lot of the standard parroted myths about Game Pass, but we just haven't yet. It's a shame. I would be looking forward to reading.
But I would also, if we do have time, I also want to kind of, maybe we'll talk about it during the xCloud segment, around basically the past, and I'll talk a lot about that in regards into Xbox and where they're going to the future. So I'll leave that for later, but just to give people a little sneak peek on what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah,
goes to the past. You have to talk about the past to get to the future. Absolutely,
and I have to admit, I've seen some of the Patreon questions this week, and I think there's some pivoted around that topic. So yeah, it's
either way. I trust my source when they tell me 22 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Microsoft might not give 22. They might give 20 or 21, but that's as of March 31. I was told that it was as of April 22, or just over 22. But I don't think Microsoft would say like 22.3. They would just say 22,
no,
I assume?
Not yet. They're not at that point. Usually companies start doing that point number as stuff kind of slows down, so that they can show, hey, there's still a little boost in there, because that's all you're really doing with that number, and they wanted to make it nice and clean right now. So probably not, and probably not until like they do like family sharing and stuff like that.
I long for that. At the moment, I'm juggling 3 Xboxes in this house.
You'll get that.
It's got to come, right? So in other news this week, finally, you can actually play free-to-play games on Xbox without spending any money beyond buying an Xbox. It's only taken 20 years. It should have been it should have been way back in like 2013.
I can't believe Party
Microsoft.
Chat was behind gold. Chat was behind gold. I can't believe
gross,
that. I mean, Netflix was behind gold for a little while.
That was gross too. There's so many and I don't know if there was some code or something, like the fact that they had to test this. And excuse my ignorance, that it wasn't just allow yes.
The switch.
But
no, so I can speak to that.
Please.
AKA background, everyone. I am a professional software developer. But I did a little bit of indie work with Xbox, and I didn't really release anything. But there is code for you to determine what your game is determined. Basically, there's an if inside of the game to make sure that there's Xbox Live Gold and Xbox Live Silver. So like developers have to basically handle both types. And so it's not just as easy for the company to just say, yes, you're gold, but they have to look at it from this testing that I would presume that they would have to do, is that they can say all these specific titles. I'll just make an array. Sorry, I'm going into technical terms.
Please
but
do.
You have an array of games, and you say, hey, all of these, for each one of these games, each player who plays it has gold. Like literally has gold. Because it's easier to just say that person has gold than to remove it. When they totally remove it from everyone, because that will happen, it most likely would be like a hack to say, hey, everybody has gold, instead of just doing the reverse and saying we're getting rid of it. From a technical standpoint, it's easier to do it that way. Not necessarily saying that is what they're doing. Anybody on Microsoft, you can let me know. I'm not going to say anything, but just for my personal reasons, because I like tech. But yeah, they want it will definitely be easier to give everybody that privilege, and they basically kind of do that now with the free play days, or on like those Saturdays. But now they just kind of make it permanent for these types of games. So it's a little bit of some repository checks, and then they'll just say, hey, everybody has gold. I
haven't seen the word "bool" for ages. Brit in the chat, "bool has gold equals true." I haven't seen that word in ages.
Yes, bool as in Boolean. That's true, false. So
I haven't seen that for a long time back in the old programming days.
So, just for the ignoramus on the crew here. So we're talking literally about way back in the day when they had that silver gold membership denomination, that legacy code, whatever you want to call it, was still playing a part. And rather than retrofit that, they've effectively, you presume, cheated and just told the system, okay, from your point of view, when you do a check, everyone has gold. If you're loading this game, they have gold. That's how they can have these things.
Because that would be the quickest way to do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
If they wanted to do it fast. So let's say, okay, going back to when they messed up and had an issue saying, hey, we're going to double the price, and then I was like, oh, we're going to switch it to free to play. Like, it's like, okay, well, my mindset goes to management talks to developers. This is now your new priority. The tech lead would be like, okay, well, what's the quickest way that we can get there, and how can we test that just as fast? So the fastest thing is, okay, give everybody gold for these specific titles, and then we can go ahead and have our insiders test it. That is exactly what I would presume that they would do to have something fast, but it's not to say that they couldn't have a bigger plan for the future when they get rid of gold. Yeah. And I will keep talking to that into existence. Yeah, because it's going to happen.
I fully agree. It is going to happen. But we'll get into the future of things Hopefully. In a little bit.
Hopefully.
But yeah, it's great news, and it also makes the Series S arguably.
I know. Start the marketing campaign. Yeah, man.
Boom.
Like start.
You play the next gen version of games for the cheapest price. Everything's bundled in.
Yeah. $2.99. Fortnite box. Rocket League box.
Blast the bass. To the future.
To the future.
To infinity and beyond, and all of that jazz. That makes sense. I appreciate that. What else have we got? Another change that Microsoft made, and this is hilarious to me because
we touched on this earlier.
We did.
We touched on this earlier.
But this amuses me because I was cruising around in Discord and I saw I got tagged because this came up, and I think Bruno Costa noticed, hey, it's tracking time again, it's tracking it accurately. And then the next message was, I think it was from Sukia Brood saying, 6 played Sea of Thieves for 36 days. I was like, yeah, I have.
Hey, you ain't got nothing. You ain't got nothing on my Rocket League, mate.
No, I know.
Nothing.
Sea of Thieves is a better game, though.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it is. Sea of Thieves. I'm with Sick on this one.
Not even close.
Honestly, man, we need to do it. Okay, in the chat.
Actually, you know what? Since we're talking about Sea of Thieves, I wonder if I should say this. No, I don't want to talk about Sea of Thieves.
No, it's too late. We're talking about it now.
But I wonder if we should say. I wonder if Tavish Hill is watching.
He might be.
So look. Oh, I just realised who David M is.
Yeah.
I just realised. Okay, so David M, 30 frames per second is greater than 60 frames per second. Do you know who that is? There's only one person that could be.
Oh, yeah.
Hexa. Is it Hexa? God damn it.
What other idiot would say 30 frames is greater?
You should have said worst mods, and then I would have had it between Synth and Hexa, you know.
So this is what an amazing person I am, right? So even though I don't like Sea of Thieves and don't want to talk about Sea of Thieves, I was trying to get a guest on our podcast that would be all about Sea of Thieves.
I know. I hope you succeed, because this would be awesome.
Well, this person, and that's what I was hoping Tavish would be watching, so because I don't want to say something if I wasn't meant to say it. So I am in the process I don't know if it's going to happen. And Tavish actually got a reply from the guest saying maybe down the road. So it's not happening now. I am trying to get a guest on the podcast for Sick, a Hollywood actor who is very much into Sea of Thieves. I'm trying to get this person on the podcast.
Nice.
And so far, the reply we have is maybe down the road. But the people that know me know that I'm quite good at stalking and harassing.
Yeah.
So I will continue to stalk and harass this person until they appear on the podcast.
That's cool. Lamb Tramp, Mare to the future. Let's go to the past. Skies of Arcadia.
Guys of Arcadia.
Fair.
We are going to go to the past. We're going to go to the past so we can go to the future. Have you not seen Back to the Future? You have to do this.
It's a good film. But apparently Endgame told me that everything in Back to the Future was bullshit. That makes me sad.
Factually, yes. I don't want to go.
I don't care. It's a good film.
Yeah.
So
watch Endgame. Endgame. Avengers Endgame is a documentary on time travel.
Yeah, we've had our MCU bit at the beginning of the podcast, right? We're stopping. But to the chat, I still say to this day, it would be absolutely brilliant one day to do a live stream where I take you and maybe two other people that just have hated or not, it's not my kind of game, out on the Sea of Thieves to see if we can win some loot and just play for a few hours. I still want to do it. If the chat agrees, please let us know, because if we get a bunch of responses now, we've got to make it happen, because that's what the community demands, man.
I will only play Sea of Thieves if Freddie Prinze Jr. plays with us. If I can play Sea of Thieves with Freddie Prinze Jr.,
well, suggest that to him. Say, look, my co-host is a big fan. But I don't like the game, and he says I'm wrong. So his suggestion was that we all go out in a brigantine and see what we can do. And let's make that happen. Let's make that happen as a show.
It's the only way I'm playing Sea of Thieves.
Oh, let me go turn on my light real quick.
And speaking of which, I actually reached out to the wonderful Joe Neat and
up a little bit.
Mike Chapman from Rare about appearing on a future episode, and I did actually get a response. They had no slots really time available for the season 2 launch, but we're going to revisit that conversation later on in the year. So my Sea of Thieves dream may come true yet. We'll see. I can see David M in the chat. I'm the best mod sick. How dare you? Fraud me.
Oh, wait. We can still fraud you, technically.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Hexa was a fraud. I cleared it yesterday. He was a fraud.
Really? Oh, I've been frauding Gus all the time. Just randomly I would fraud him. He just won't know.
Sea of Thieves private servers, Lamp Tramp. Brit, no.
What?
They were arguing for private servers.
Why is that bad?
It's antithetical to the entire point and purpose of the game's design.
It should not have private servers.
Ever. It will never happen. Ever. So.
All right, what are they doing? Testing that though?
They were testing it for communities doing
for the
events.
Community, and I'm okay with that. That makes more sense. But the game itself normally should always be open, free.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it would be cool if you wanted to do let's all go in and everyone take a galleon and meet here at this time and have a massive fight. Fine.
Yeah.
But, if they ever did anything like private servers, they would have to turn off all progression whatsoever because people would just abuse it. So, yeah.
I will say, because we're still talking about this technically, with the Xbox app tracking time, I'm jumping into it now as we speak. Yesterday, I noticed almost all my games were saying that I haven't played them. So I don't know if there's still issues there or not. I went to Titanfall because I'm installing Titanfall because, 120 frames per second Titanfall. Yeah. And I went to Titanfall and it said I have no achievements in Titanfall, even though I have all the achievements. And it said that I haven't put any hours into it. So I'm checking now if... Oh, hold on. It's fixed now. So Killer Instinct, 4,935 out of 4,935. And how many hours, Killer Instinct? 18 days and 15 hours in Killer Instinct.
Damn. That's a fair amount of Killer Instinct, dude.
Killer Instinct was so amazing.
We should get Maximilian Dude on one day.
Sorry,
Is
we
amazing.
should what?
We should get Maximilian Dude on
Oh,
one
yeah,
day.
we should. Well, he's in the
Killer
Discord,
Instinct.
so we'll try to reach out to him and get him on.
Everybody's down to play some KI. I
Yeah.
would definitely play some KI.
Killer
with them.
Instinct's just
I'll
the
button
best.
mash my way through. It's fine.
You will
But
not
that's
make
the
it.
beauty of it.
I
That's
know.
the beauty of Killer Instinct. You can. The game lets you button mash and get away with it a little bit. That's the beauty of it.
Against who?
Well, yeah, that's
Against me.
Like,
Against me. That's how
but
they'll win.
still,
You can
more than
maybe
most
give-
other games, it
Yeah.
still gives button mashers a fighting chance.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit. What
So
else
good.
happened this week?
Discord walked away.
Discord, yes. Apparently walked away from talks with
Yeah.
Microsoft. Although the article that suggested that they walked away, bearing in mind there was never any real confirmation.
Concrete.
Besides here's what we're hearing, still left a possibility at some point in the future. But for now, they're pursuing a
Correct.
public.
It's not.
option.
It's not impossible. Like it's not. That's it. Door is closed. It can never happen.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. It's still technically possible. That I will admit up front was one of my L's because I posted on Twitter that I am like 98% confident it's happening, and then posted the GIF with the Ghana Ghana funeral.
Technically, you weren't wrong, but because it's just talks, and they have advanced talks, and sometimes those.
Oh well,
talks
yeah. I was just saying that I was 98% confident that it was going to happen. So I guess,
Right.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
my words
you're
get twisted a lot.
98%, not
So.
100%.
Yeah, true. I did allow that 2% for them walking away. I
Yeah.
guess.
Exactly.
I do
I did allow.
kind of get concerned though, because I think Discord obviously is hugely popular amongst PC gamers and communities in general, and I have to question how many people really pay for Nitro, and then you've got to think, well, at what point, how do they monetize this beyond his
This is what I'm
extra
saying.
emojis? And a
All we
public
ever hear,
Discord, that worries
yeah, like
me.
all we ever, like Lamtramp saying it now, like all we ever hear is that Discord's not making any money or not making much money. Now,
Yeah.
if they go public, they have to start making money. And not only do they have to start making money if they go public, they have to keep growing and making money year on year and more. How are they going to do that? They're going to have to turn Discord into this horrible ad-filled, forced monetization,
No thanks.
bloody... Yeah, and I'm like, how can they not take 12 billion? I actually think it might have been more than that. But how can they not take 12 billion and then the freedom to just keep doing what they're doing on top of that? See, for those people that say Microsoft ruined Skype, it was actually the opposite. Microsoft didn't meddle enough in Skype. So they would also probably leave Discord alone as well to keep doing what they're doing. So why would, it just seems weird that they wouldn't take the 12 billion.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Mr. Linkified in the chat, didn't Discord have a store where they're selling indie games from?
Yes.
They did, but I don't
Yes.
think anyone...
And no one used it, so they got rid of it.
Yeah. So they tried.
Who knows? It still could happen. Maybe this is just, I don't know, a back and forth. I don't know enough about this stuff to have a proper opinion on it one way or the other. But as far as I know, it's not, the door's not closed on it.
No.
It could still happen, as far as I know.
But we won't know until we know.
Yeah.
And I know we touched on this earlier on in the podcast, and I know this is particularly your area of passion and expertise, Zedox, in that they finally announced xbox.com/play. There's an open beta. We've got Rainway involved. It's on iOS.
Yeah, I thought
on a
that was
browser.
really interesting. The Rainway thing was interesting.
That's one way to
that
get
was
around
surprising
it.
to me.
Is Rainway only for iOS?
No, so they are just basically any platform. They just try to help out streaming on basically through web browsers. So that's what they're kind of known for. But they have basically a SDK, and they work with Microsoft on that SDK to make sure that cloud gaming can work on browsers. So
Does Microsoft not have their own tech involved for making it work in browsers?
They could, but why do it when somebody else already does, and you can just pay for the SDK and work with that team, and who knows what happens in the future if they want that tech. Because obviously they have tech with streaming and with Mixer, so they got technology from Mixer and patents and stuff. So they do have a lot of technical chops for doing that. But when you're trying to pivot and you want to do it fast, like you have customers that want your product and you want to move fast, you don't want to like, well, we can keep building this out, or we can just use this company's stuff and partner up to get it as fast as possible. So if we look at the timeline was summertime, and we kind of got everything saying, hey, this really isn't going to happen. Or we can just say September when it launched, saying, oh, we're going to get iOS later. Well, if you think about it, they weren't going to be building something that would work in, was it 6 months, 7 months? Instead, you partner with somebody, and Microsoft is a partnering company. They work with other companies all the time. And so it's easier for them to work with another company than for them to build out something. And then if they really, really like them, who knows, it could be an acquisition or something like that. But it doesn't necessarily have to deal with that. But, they're a partnering company, and they work with a lot of businesses, and they have those relationships. So it's easier for them to do that than to build their own. We will still be waiting. Yeah. Because there's a lot more testing. There's a lot more testing that goes involved when you build your own thing. If a company already has the SDK, go ahead and use it. Yeah. Versus we have to build this whole infrastructure up, test it out internally, and then give it out to our customers to test it externally, and then we can roll it out even though somebody else already has the work done for me.
Yeah, it makes sense. This is a time issue, right? Okay, we've got customers that want this now. We've got the momentum with all of the Game Pass announcements. Half of the US or more is going to be on iOS. We need to get something out in
all of Japan. Is iOS.
So we have to do it, and we have to do it this way. It makes sense. Yeah, I completely see how that happened, to be honest with you, because I'm sure they did, or they could have developed their own version, but it's a question of time, testing, and they want to seize the momentum, right? It makes sense.
I just want to interrupt for 2 seconds. King 2002. It's on the talk list. It's on the sheet. It's on the talk list about Forza Horizon 5. Don't worry.
We'll get to it.
It's there.
We'll get to it. And I guess that lends a little bit to the next question, right? And I'm going to throw this one out here, and it's mostly for you, Zedox.
Before we leave this though.
Go on.
Before we leave this though.
It's on this subject.
So they've partnered with Rainway.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm still surprised. Oh, maybe it's because the Bethesda acquisition only just went through. But I'm surprised we haven't heard more about Orion being used somewhere.
Well, so I can lend some talk to that. So yes, it just happened. Yes, they already knew about that technology. Yeah. There is a time in which companies, they have to integrate, and there has to be evaluation from all the things that they're doing. Obviously, Microsoft evaluated everything that Bethesda was doing, but from a technical standpoint, you also have to look at the insides of how that technology actually works. So Orion could possibly work as it exists today, but how does it integrate? Does it integrate cleanly? Was it made for integration? So you have to look at that technical level in which one company is like, hey, we want to use your stuff. And then other company is like, yeah, you can use our stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that you have to do to make it work the way that you possibly want it to work. And to make that...
It's a software solution, though. Orion is software.
Yes, but it's not just software. Is very hard because I work in just software, but it takes months and months and months to understand something, to know that it can work at scale. So it's not... What Microsoft does is everything is at scale. They're talking, and I'm talking about data in exabytes. Like they work at a large scale on their technology. So they have to make sure that Orion can work, but can it work at scale? And so if they bring up a whole bunch of containers in Azure and all that type of stuff, can it work for everyone on all their regions and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of things that they have to evaluate before that they can get to say, oh, we have this, now can we use it?
On that topic, we can see Brit in the chat says Orion is client and server side, required customization in the client side and some server support as to which layers are being delivered from the cloud and which ones are client side rendered. So there's a little bit more to do it, whereas I presume the Rainway solution is we're going to just convert it, here's a video feed, done.
So I remember watching the Orion video though, and they mentioned how it can just be applied. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I remember them saying something like this could just be applied to any existing streaming solution or something like that. I can't remember.
Yes. Being applied does not include the time in which you can integrate it. So so they can say that it can, and it's possibly that it can. And I don't doubt that, but it is the work in order to do that that it takes time. And so even with Rainway isn't the only thing that Microsoft is using for their streaming. It is part of what is being used. Rainway isn't the full solution. So I want to make sure that people know that Rainway isn't the full thing. Microsoft still has stuff that's on the client side and on the server side that they have to work with. It's just that they use part of Rainway to get the cloud stuff to work in the web browsers. And so with Orion, they're going to look at, hey, how can we use it and how can it work with the Rainway stuff and the client and the server and all these layers of the stack, as we say in the tech industry.
In the biz.
In the biz. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that go along with that. So it's not as easy as people make it seem, and I'm not discouraging you from anything, but it's just to get that information out there that it takes a long time for all these things to happen. Engineering is a very difficult thing to do. It's fun if you like a lot of challenges, but it takes a lot of work for these things to actually happen, even if you bought something. It's not like buying a car or whatever. It's like, hey, I bought a piece that goes into the engine, but I have to move the well, not the engine, but the rotary, everything parts of the car, all those things. And I should really know this right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So Brit's got a quote up. Brit's got a quote up. Yeah, it must have come from that video. In contrast to game streaming services that focus on hardware solutions to stream games, Orion is a game engine level software solution integrated within the game engine itself. See, I knew I heard something like that.
Yeah. So inside the game, and so every game engine. So there's a difference between when people think about game engines, you think about Unreal, right? You think about Unreal, you think about like id Software, id Tech, I should say. Yeah. But game engines are actually, each game has its own engine. So a lot of companies, game companies, use those engines and they customize it specifically for their game. Like Unreal is open source. A lot of companies muck with a whole bunch of Unreal to make their game as optimal as possible for the things that they want to do. Yeah. And so when a lot of words get thrown around on the internet, especially inside of forums, and they don't understand the intricacies of these words or whatever. So when they say a game engine, it's per game engine. And now that team could use that same technology for each one of their games, but is an implementation problem for each one of the games that they do. So they can put it inside the engine that they keep using, like Dice's Frostbite engine, and each one they can integrate into that engine, and then each game engine can have Orion running into it. But yes, Britt is correct. Thank you for that information, Britt.
Yeah. Well, Thomas told us when he was on how Moon took the Unity engine, modified the shit out of it, and called it the Moonity engine.
Yep.
Amazon bought Crytek's and made Lumberyard, like a variant of it. So yeah, I mean, Jesus, the Call of Duty engine started as the Quake engine.
Yeah. So, and here's my question, right? Do you guys think, genuinely, and primarily Zedox here, do you guys think, considering how woeful Microsoft's fortunes have been in Japan, do you think that, having xCloud, having, logging onto a browser, playing through iOS. Do you think it's going to make a difference, or do you just think that audience is just never going to latch onto what Microsoft do?
Nick, you can go ahead, and because I'm going to go all the way in.
No.
You can just put the tip in.
I don't, like I said, mate. No one streams to Australia, so I'm out of this conversation.
You don't get to test.
Google won't stream here. Microsoft won't stream here. Amazon, no one streams here.
Yeah, it would happen. So, do you want me to go into the whole past future thing now, or should I just answer that specific question? How I would answer that question is not yet.
Yeah.
It is the future. It is going to be something that gaming is going to be normalized. And how I always say the future and all that type of stuff. The thing is that we have to remember that we are old. We have to remember that we are not just growing up and getting introduced to games. Everybody's getting introduced to games today. Touch controls are everything. They're so good at touch controls. That's normal. They're normal, but they're normal for everything that they do. Like right now, she's about to turn 2 and she knows how to flip stuff on the phone, and I'm just like, what in the world? Like, as they grow up and they become teenagers and they become just regular kids or whatever, those things are gonna be normalized. So when we talk about streaming is, as Phil Spencer says, is a journey. And so over a long period of time, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, those things are going to be so normalized just as normal as Netflix was doing DVDs and giving it to you. And now everybody has every movie at a click of a button. It takes time for that infrastructure to happen, but the infrastructure will happen. And the reason why it will happen is because our technology always increases. It always gets better. There's never been exponentially. So, and as I kind of said in the Discord, what was 15 years from now? 15 years ago. 15 years ago, iPhone did not exist. No. There was no iPhone 15 years ago.
You're not making me feel good.
I know.
Right
07, yeah.
07, and I think it was introduced 07, and it came out 08. But either way,
maybe, I don't know.
Let's say that was the first year. That's when the iPhone just started. We were just getting introduced to touchscreens. But also, look at this. That's when we had 2G. 2G was back then. That was 15 years ago. And at the same time, that was the first time we had a capacitive touchscreen. I think before there were progressive touchscreens, and they were not resistive, and they weren't as good. And so when you look at that past, and now you look at where we are 15 years into the future, then it's like everybody has phones, everybody has screens. My big Surface Studio is a big screen. Everything is screen. Everything is screen.
You have a Surface Studio?
Yeah, that's what
you got it.
I'm so jelly right now. That thing looked cool. I tried one in a Microsoft store in Florida, and I was like, yeah, I want one.
I can push this down, and you can see how I'm doing that very, very smoothly. But anyways,
sorry.
Yeah, but no, it's fine. So if you look back at the technology on how fast it grows, as Nick said, it grows exponentially. So we're at 4G. We're at the cusp of starting 5G. 15 years ago, we're at 2G. So that's 3 Gs in the span of 15 years. And so you think 10 years from now, the end of this decade, so basically like we would have one generation of console or whatever. And so let's try to say we would have, 10 years, that'll be 2 more Gs if we look at it. So we'll be at 7G by the end of this decade. Don't you think that the speed would be fine? And if Microsoft is telling everyone, hey, we're trying to build 50 to 100 data centers per year, that's let's say, 9 years? That's basically 1,000. Basically 1,000.
I'd say the speed will be fine with 5G. I don't even think we'd really.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to tell the story, like how that technology grows so fast. And so that the thing that we think that is not possible now is definitely going to be possible in 10 years from now. I'm not calling for the death of consoles. I think that they will still exist. I don't think Microsoft's going to have a console past 2035, but that's my personal opinion. Just because I look at the exponential power of what we will be doing 15 years from now. But to answer your question about right now is for everybody to kind of get used to it. Right now is the time in which we were in Netflix and we didn't know, like, I'm streaming it. And then going back to Netflix didn't have that big of a selection when they started streaming.
No,
it was
not
only
at all.
not everybody was going to it. Game Pass is at a totally different. They followed the model the same way, but they're at a totally different pace in which they're introducing streaming to everybody. So they're introducing streaming when the content is kind of already there, but they're getting their original content out. So now when you kind of look at it, it's like, okay, everybody's complaining. It's like complaining about the lag. Yes, there's lag. There is lag, but it will get better over time, and we're not going to think about that. We're not going to think about like we don't think about flip phones like we used to think about flip phones when we think about Nokia candy bars. We don't think about that because it's already done. We don't think about digital games being, oh, my data caps. There's no bandwidth. Like I'm out in a submarine. Like we don't think about those things anymore. We don't talk about those things anymore because the prevalence of that new technology has just arisen everybody's mind. And so like nobody thinks about those things. So the things that you're complaining about now won't be the things that you complain about in the future.
Yeah. So
but going back, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, so right now, really, it is very much it's an additive in this world, but it's with a view of it not being the only way, but it being a perfectly viable way, to play games anywhere you want on any device you want. And Microsoft, I guess, are thinking that in that 10-year, 15-year mind frame, lay the groundwork, put the foundation and the work in now so that you're already where Netflix was when they made House of Cards, and suddenly you get that big boost. You're there when 4G arrives and suddenly people are streaming on their phones and so on. And so you're there for that evolution of technology, right?
Right. And so what I'll say to that, you hit on the point that I was going to bring up, that 10 to 15 year plan. Phil stated that. He talked about wave 1, wave 2, and how he thinks about stuff in 5, 10, 15-year increments. That's actually a normal thing that executives do when they're talking about plans, especially at a company like Microsoft, because they're not thinking about, they have really long money. So if you're trying to come out with a product, it has to be something that is going to be good for us for 5 to 10 years. Like, they're not talking peanuts. Like $1 million is nothing to them. It's a whole bunch to us, but $1 million is nothing to them. So they want to make sure that the thing that they're doing, their big pieces, their big pillars, are affecting their business that will be longevity, that has a long lifespan for their company. And so when you hear Sarah Bond say, we're thinking about 3 billion gamers or 3 billion gamers by year 2030 or something like that. They're really planning for that, because if you look at what I stated before, if we're going by the G's or whatever, we should have 6G, 7G by the end of this generation. Why can't we have 3 billion gamers when we already have 2-point-something billion gamers? Yeah. Those people who, and it goes back into what I said earlier from that with the kids who are growing up now. Streaming is going to be normalized for them. They're not going to. What kid will like, oh, I got to get a box to play my game when it should be on my phone? My phone can be the screen. I can connect to any screen, whatever. Yeah, your iPad. Like, they are not going to care about that. So Microsoft is just carefully wording. You kind of hit on it a little bit, John. They are carefully wording what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because Google messed up. Google said the wrong thing, because they're not playing the game right now. Microsoft, if you hear what Phil says, and he always says journey, is because he knows what they're supposed to do. What they want is streaming. Yes, consoles are nice, but software is king. King in the way that you can get volume. King in the way that Microsoft is a software company. it is so much easier to get so much more money if it's in software, because software is repeatable and it's easier to handle versus hardware. They can't get boxes in all parts of the world. We have finite resources. Right now, we have an issue with the TSMC right now, so everybody can't get it. But if streaming was here, who cares about a console at that point in time?
I saw an interesting point in the chat earlier from a cowboy in Sweden, aka Harmonica, who said all those data centers though that they want to build,
bad for the environment.
Very bad for the environment. I know Microsoft trying to come up with ways to run carbon free.
They've put some of them underwater.
Yes,
some of the data centers. Yeah.
They've had one running for a year now, and now they have new research. I can keep up on Microsoft stuff. They have new research where they have they're actually engulfing them in not water but a liquid to actually keep them cool, and they actually like boil and stuff like that. So it's actually submerged, and so they can actually keep it submerged, and it'll be cheaper for them on the long road.
Yeah, Project Natic. Thank you, JH.
Yeah. So now let me go into my spiel about some of this past before we go on. So I was right. Nick was right.
I'm always
about
right.
a lot of things. About a lot of things. So obviously ray tracing. I know Figments isn't here. We were right.
I know.
We were right.
NVMe SSDs.
We were right. And I can tell you why, for specifically me, why I was right on a lot of things. So I go back, my introduction to Microsoft software, obviously through Windows or whatever, but what really struck me with Microsoft was, and I don't know if you remember this, it's called their XNA program. XNA was it was basically not a game engine, but it was a SDK that people could use and make their own games. I was introduced to that in college, and that basically actually helped me get through college. When I learned game development, actually physics made sense after I learned game development. So that's kind of weird.
Nice.
And so back then, kind of going into Game Pass or whatever, back then you had Zune. So I know you're like, what, Zune?
I had a Zune. I had a Zune. I had the Halo 3 Zune imported
it came out
from the US. Thank you.
So this is a very long connection that you can get from this story I'm going to tell you. So back in Zune days or whatever, Microsoft was going against Apple. They were going and chasing the iPod. And with the iPod, they're just like, oh, we're going to do something different. So they're going to have a subscription service. What was the name of that subscription service? Zune Music Pass. It was like $14.99 or $9.99. I can't remember the exact price. But you can stream all of your you can actually download all of your music, and you can keep 10 of them a month. But there was something else that happened during that year, and that was called Spotify. I think it was Spotify came out the year before or the year of Zune. And that was something that Microsoft was not paying attention to, because they were paying attention to Apple because of who was at the top. And that was Steve Ballmer, and he was chasing Apple at the time and all this type of stuff. Always chasing. And basically Zune failed because it was always chasing. Nobody cared about the Zune. Nobody... Like, people cared about it. People who, I mean, I still love Zune software. It's the most beautifully designed ever.
Yes.
And why nobody has copied play count? I'm still mad. Like, play count, it was like the equality of gamer score.
Yeah.
But basically going in the realm of what happened to Zune and why it failed, now you kind of look into what Microsoft is doing with Game Pass. And so what happened was they learned to say, hey, we need to do a subscription service, and we're going to do it right this time because we're not going to pay attention to anybody else. They stopped following what Sony was doing, and they said, hey, we're going to carve this path. But what happened when Game Pass actually started was, and I'm going to be leaping right now, but this is just my prediction, and I guess Phil Spencer can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I believe that 2014, when Phil and Satya Nadella had to sit down and talked about Xbox, in that very meeting or some meeting in between that year, Game Pass was talked about at that point in time. Game Pass,
for sure.
The reason why because I looked at, there was in 2017 there was an article in a interview with Phil, and Phil stated, we've been working on this for 3 years. 3 years, 2017, 2014. 2014 is when he became the head of Xbox. 2014 was also the year that Satya Nadella became CEO of Microsoft.
Yeah.
So you look at that, and Phil has to sell Xbox to Satya to say, hey, what? Because we all know Phil already said that. Satya said, why should we be in gaming?
Yeah.
The reason why there are gaming subscriptions, which Satya was very big on, and which was already making Microsoft a lot of money, because I believe Office 365 was already out during that period of time.
Yes.
And then you also have to look at Azure Cloud. If xCloud wasn't existing at some point in time, you most likely wouldn't have Xbox. And so during that conversation, there was also something else that was probably being talked about, or at least during that year, obviously, and that was Minecraft. And so Minecraft, I believe, was bought that same year.
Yeah, 2015. Yep.
So Phil had to come in with big guns. And so what Minecraft does is goes back to the thing we talked about earlier, was getting children inside of Microsoft's ecosystem. And that was a bigger play than just Xbox and just gaming. It was really getting people to like Microsoft at a brand level and getting them as children. Because right now everybody's loving iPads, they're loving iPhones and all that type of stuff. So that and what is a parent going to buy their child? The new hot thing or whatever is they're going to love that for the rest of life. So if you do that with gaming, with doing that with Minecraft, then you can elevate Microsoft. So Phil has to sell all these types of things to Satya to say, hey, this is why we should be in the gaming. And then streaming was a part of that, because he knows that you have streaming, you have subscriptions, you have Azure. And so all those breadcrumbs that happened throughout the years with PC and cross save and play anywhere, all those things was leading up to 2017. And then when 2017 happened, obviously Game Pass happened. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, I know exactly what they're doing. Like at that point, I was like, I know exactly what they're doing. That's how I could say, not even ray tracing, but I was like, there's going to be tiers in Game Pass. Like I have the tweet. There's going to be tiers in Game Pass. I still said Go was going to leave. I just was wrong with the timing, but we know it's going to leave. That I knew that there was going to include Game Pass. They were going to include streaming inside of Game Pass. I thought it was going to be all tiers, but I understood why they went with the upper tier. And obviously that's more money and it can get more people in it. But I knew they were going to do it. That's how I know that family sharing is going to happen, because that's when it has to happen, because that's just something that all other subscriptions have. And so you have to look, all of those things surround what's going on in the future. So we know that they're going to come in with content.